afternoon, everyone. My name is Terry Brown. I'm with the Small Business Center here at Central Carolina Community College. And welcome to Rock Your Talk, how to turn conversations, specifically online conversations these days, into cash for your service-based business. This is your first time on a webinar with us. Welcome. You will see three icons at the bottom of your screen. One will say chat, one will say raise your hand, and you'll also have Q&A. We're not going to be using the raise your hand today, so if you have any questions or comments along the way, please be sure to post them in the chat or the Q&A, and either myself or Nancy will answer your questions today. So we have with us today Nancy Juetten. Nancy is back with us. She was here if you attended her webinar with us last month. Nancy is an expert, particularly in PR, online marketing. She's an author. She's a speaker, and she's a professional service provider herself. So she is an expert in being able to talk with you about this topic today. We're all kind of fighting being at home and trying to figure out how to market our businesses on the internet and to do what we can from home. And so we're excited to have her here today to talk to us about that. So Nancy, welcome. We're glad to have you back with us again.
Thank you, Terry. It's always such an honor to be invited to speak to your community, and thank you for showing up live to be a participant. I see we have quite a few folks who are here today, so I would love for you to post in the chat what big questions you have about showing up and speaking more even while you're sheltering in place. Do you want to learn about podcasts? Do you want to learn about YouTube? Do you want to learn about how to make it pay off? I would love to see your comments, because as we go through the presentation today, I want to rise up to meet your challenges and to make this the best time you could possibly invest in your monetization of your expertise today. How does that sound as a starting point? I would love to get this party started, so I think that's what we'll do. You know, we've got this COVID-19 thing happening. Oh, I'm just going to check in the chat here. It says, very good, greetings. So glad you're here. I love when people participate. So we've got this COVID-19 pandemic, and the world has literally changed dramatically for every one of us. That means that if you were someone that was speaking on live stages, you don't have that option right now. And that can be very frustrating, and it can also hurt in your bottom line. How are you going to make money if you can't go to an event? How are you going to meet people for networking if you can't shake their hand? Well, fortunately, in today's high technology world, there are ways that you can actually speak more, show up, make new friends, and turn those conversations into cash. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Just trying to make the slides advance. Okay. Lots of fun now here. Wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, Nancy, if you just...
Here we go, got it.
Yeah, there she works.
I got it. So right about now, do you have Zoom meeting fatigue? Are your eyes glazing over to go to another Zoom meeting? Or could it be that you're not quite sure how to show up online and hide the dirty dishes that are hanging in your background? Or maybe you've got kids or pets that are running around in the background that are making it really difficult for you to show up like a pro at hello. During today's training, you're going to learn some quick tips to show up like a pro and connect with your audience when you speak virtually. And you're going to get some tips to make the most of your body language, the use of your gestures, and the impact of eye rolls and eyebrows to make your message more compelling. And I'm also going to teach you at least 2 simple low-cost ways to upgrade your virtual background so your dirty dishes can be a mystery to all who tune in. I'm going to share a couple equipment suggestions to make you look like a pro even more than you are right now. And the most important part of the talk is how to learn a simple way to structure your talk. So when you deliver your content, you can invite one call to action and have more leads, more prospects lean in your direction so they can do more business with you. So that's what we're going to cover today. A little bit about my background. Since 2002, I've been working as a get known, get paid mentor, working with subject matter experts and aspiring experts who want to raise their voice, make their impact, and of course, make money. I'm the author of the very popular Bye Bye Boring Bio workbook that is still the go-to source for experts and entrepreneurs to describe who they are and what they do and why it matters so the right people will do business with them. And I'm also a contributing author to 2 other books, the National Speakers Association book, Speak More, Marketing Strategies to Get More Speaking Business, and also the World's Greatest Speakers, Insider Secrets to turn your audience into action, to inspire your audience into action. So I've been at this for a good long time, both on the live stage and the virtual stage, and I've helped many thousands of people step up and show up and get paid. And in doing so, I've actually earned several $1,000,000 for myself. So I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, which gives me the credibility to speak to you today. So my first point, how can you show up like a pro at hello? Several ideas. Look your best. If you've been on a few of these Zoom calls already, you've probably been in the Brady Bunch matrix and you've seen people in their pajamas, wearing hats, wearing cutoffs that you can see, or maybe not wearing enough of what they should be wearing to put their best image forward. If you're going to be on a Zoom call, please look your best, because how you look is a reflection of how you show up in all that you do. And so do the best with what God gave you. You want to look directly at the camera, not to the side, not off to the side, not somewhere else, but look directly at the camera, because your connection with the audience is the most important thing. If people feel that you are looking at them, looking at you, you'll feel more connected, even though you may be miles apart. You want to if you're happy, let your face show it. Smile, connect, and serve to the best of your ability. And this is a hot point for me. I call it verbal punctuation. Have you ever been on a webinar where there was a guest being interviewed and every sentence starts with, well, here's the story behind that. Like when this happened, when you hear this verbal punctuation, it is such a disservice to your message, and it's such a disservice to your audience. You might listen to someone who is doing this a lot and grab a tally and start tallying up how many ums, ahs, so's, ands, and guttural utterances that you hear. In a virtual world, the more articulate you are, the more of a gift you can be to the ears of all who are paying attention. I know I have clicked away many times from participating in expert interviews who had content to share with me because I just couldn't stand the verbal punctuation. So be aware of that. Also, use vocal variety. If you speak in a monotone the whole time you are addressing your audience, you could be the reason that they are snoozing instead of leaning in and paying attention. So when you have something important to say, pause, and remember to keep it interesting so that it's interesting to the viewer and to the listener. And of course, offer visuals to bring your content alive, because a talking head has some value, but a talking head with content that you can share with your audience so that they're inspired to take notes and ask questions. Now that's even better. All right. Now we talked a little bit about the background and how we don't want to see your dirty dishes. And I also know that right now money is tight for people around the globe. So there are several options that you can consider to upgrade what your viewer sees behind you. One option is to upload your own image to Zoom to serve as your background. You can also buy a banner for less than $50 to hang on the wall behind you that could be a branded message about what you do. Zoom also provides some free Zoom backgrounds that you can use that might have a beach behind you or bamboo or something of that nature. And if you're really serious about showing up on video, you can buy a green screen and enjoy all the flexibility you desire to show your audience what you want them to see. So here's an example of me having uploaded an image of a talk that I often give about daring entrepreneurs to step up. And it's just a nice way to reinforce the message. And here's another example of me speaking on another subject matter where you can see the banner for Life Goes On Roadmap in the background. Those are just simple, easy options to make the background that your viewer sees easy on the eyes so you can be the center of attention. Speaking of being the center of attention, this image shows the difference between someone on the left who has a busy background where her face is not in focus and where there's a little thing you can pull to turn a light on that's hanging right above her head. It's okay, but it's not awesome. The image on the right shows her in a more attractive background where there's nothing hanging over her head. She's looking right at the camera. She's got some natural beauty in the form of a plant, and her face is in focus. Would it surprise you to know that Zoom offers a way for you to enhance your personal appearance? It's in the settings tab in Zoom. So if you have a few years on you, you're worried about being over a certain age, you want to look your best and makeup isn't quite doing the job, go into your Zoom settings and see how you can enhance your appearance just by clicking on that icon. I noticed that we've got a few comments coming in, so I just want to check in and see. Catherine says, I'm a big fan of Everbright, but need to offer my program via Zoom now. And I'm seeing some yes comments, which is great. And excellent, thank you. Looking forward to how to convert sales from webinars. Good, we're going to talk about that. Great, all right. So you can see the difference between the image on the left and the image on the right. Hopefully you can see that one is preferred over the other. That's what I want for you. All right. There's some optional equipment you might want to consider. Sometimes you can use headphones to increase and improve the audio quality. This is especially important if you're going to be on a podcast where audio quality is really important. You can also consider purchasing a Blue Yeti microphone from Amazon.com. This is really important if you're going to do a lot of podcasts and broadcast interviews from your home office, because the sound quality is something that the listener and the host really appreciates. And then also lighting, so important. Don't do your Zoom calls in the dark. This could be as simple as having 2 desk lamps to the left and the right and a reflector behind your computer, which is exactly the setup that I have. You can also go to Google and say how to set up a great lighting scenario for my online meetings and follow the directions that are suitable for your situation. If you use an iPhone to do your videos, there will be a ring light that you can use that will improve the lighting considerably. If you do your broadcast from your desktop, as I do, the desktop lighting that I have and the reflector screen seem to look better. You want to come in clear focus and not have a lot of overhead lighting, which, by the way, I'll turn this off and see if that makes the lighting even better. I think it does. What do you think? Be careful for the overhead lighting and make sure that the focus is on you and delivering your message. As to body language and gestures, if you're happy, let your face know it. Be warm and approachable. Lean forward to emphasize a key point, and make sure that your facial expressions enhance and match your message. If you're speaking about a somber topic, make sure that you change the tone of voice and the expression on your face. If you're showing sarcasm, don't be afraid to do an eye roll or lift your eyebrows to ask a question. Try to keep it interesting without being campy. Just be authentic and be you, but a talking head that doesn't do anything else at all sometimes can be monotonous for a viewer, so try to shake it up. When you're making your points, don't forget to use gestures like my first important point is, my second most important point is, And the most important point I want you to know is when you do that, it's of service to the audience because then they know to take notes, and it also keeps them on track. It keeps you on track too. So the real heart of this presentation is this idea that there really is a structure to follow to make sure that your talk delivers the promised value of the content that was offered and also invites your audience to take that all-important next step. I call this the signature talk delivery cheat sheet, and I'm going to walk you through all the steps to create your signature talk, and I'm going to model how this can be done so you can anchor it in a specific example that makes this a reliable cash machine for you and your business. If this is the one thing that you take away, this important structure from this signature talk delivery cheat sheet, I promise you that every time you're on a podcast, every time you do a YouTube video, every time you're on the news talking about what you do, every time you have the opportunity to take the stage in a Zoom conference call or a networking meeting, you can turn your conversations into cash. And if there's more people in the room than you were expecting, it can actually be a game changer for you. So don't get overwhelmed, but there are 14 steps for that all-important talk that pays off. And I'm going to walk you through all 14 steps. And I actually have a handout that is called the Signature Talk Delivery Cheat Sheet. And I've shared it with Terry, and she's going to make sure that everyone who registered for today's presentation has that so that you can keep that as an important asset to guide your success as you move along as a speaker. I'm just looking at the chat and it's saying, what will work for the free version of Zoom? If you have the free version of Zoom, I'm not exactly sure, and I'm sorry I don't know the answer, but it might be worth upgrading to the paid version. It's very affordable. It gives you more options, and from a branding perspective, the educated audience is going to see the Zoom logo on your screen, and they will know that you have a free version of Zoom. There's no blame, shame, or judgment about that, but there is one challenge around it, is that I think you can only speak for 40 minutes, and if you go a second longer, the call concludes. And when you have the paid version, you have the opportunity to elaborate if the content warrants it or your audience demands it, and that might be something to consider. All right. The 14 steps for your all-important talk starts with something I call first mental image, which is when you paint a picture that touches and transforms your audience and grabs their attention at hello. The second step is to ask an enrolling question. That could be something like, who in this room would be interested in finding a way to talk and turn every conversation into cash? May I have a show of hands? Your enrolling question should be a question that everyone in the room would be likely to say yes to, because you want your audience to start making micro yes decisions from the very beginning of your talk. Then you transition to who you are and who you serve. And then you share the credibility, the vulnerability, and the turning point. And I'm going to model this for you in a moment. That leads you to, that's why I'm so passionate about this particular topic. And today I'm going to share these important content points. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just trying to advance the slides. Then you would share what each point is, why it matters, and how to apply it. And that's the heart of your talk. And that's a perfect point for you to summarize the learning and say, so far today, I learned that everybody wants to learn how to rock their talk and turn it into cash. And I shared with you 3 specific things you can do, what they are, why they matter, and how to apply it. And that's really awesome. But that has created a new problem, which could be that you need help actually rehearsing and performing the talk and doing it with confidence and impact. And right now you feel like a bundle of nerves. That's why I created, and that's where you can put in whatever your specific program is that solves that bigger problem. And that's when you can say, because I'm here today, and I know you're interested in getting this problem solved and in the rearview mirror so you can be proceeding in a prosperous manner. And because I know there are action takers and results makers here who are ready to step up, I have a very special today only invitation to share. Would it be okay with you if I invited you in? Excuse me for just a second. In doing so, I've delivered content as promised. I've identified how there's a bigger problem that needs to be solved and why I'm the best available athlete to deliver the magic. And now I've got an opportunity to extend an offer so that people might wish to take advantage of it. So I want to try to model this for you with first mental image, because this is the concept that some people have a hard time understanding. But just try to go to the movies for a minute, and you're going to the movies and you're getting your attention grabbed at hello. And I'm taking this story from something from my own life. Come with me to a sunny beach in San Diego. I'm sitting on a lounge chair in my bathing suit. I can smell the trade winds and the flora and the fauna. I can feel the ocean breeze. I can feel my body relaxing into this beautiful setting. And the iced tea with the mint leaf is exactly the refreshment that I desire so that I can take in this beautiful setting and read my copy of Oprah magazine. When all of a sudden, my phone rings and I pick up the phone and it's National Public Radio. The host says, Nancy, I'm the producer of National Public Radio's show on expert status for you, and our guest tomorrow canceled, and we need an expert. I found you online. I'm wondering if you can be the expert on our show on National Public Radio tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. There I am in my bathing suit, and I just wake up and I say to myself, Mary, I'm so delighted to be asked. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I will be happy to be on your show. And between now and when the phone hits the cradle, you will have my photo, my short bio, a cover of my book, the 5 questions I most like to be asked during interviews, and I can't remember the last piece. Is there anything more that I can do to be of service to you and your national audience? And you know what she said? Teach the world to do what you just did. And so now I do. What I did with this first mental image story is I touched and transformed you to this beach in San Diego where you could feel the trade winds, you could smell the mint in the iced tea, you could hear the waves crashing, and you could feel the surprise when the phone rang and opportunity was knocking. That is absolutely the story I want to tell to lead people into the kind of content I want to share. Would you be ready for this kind of opportunity? And maybe I should change that question to how many, would you be ready for that kind of opportunity is actually a question that most people in the audience wouldn't be able to answer yes to, but you get the idea. Ask a question. Well, here I am. This is what I do. This is what qualifies me. And, you know, my credibility, as you can see, I've written 3 books and I've done this for a long time, but it hasn't always been wine and roses. When I was first starting out and no one knew my name, all I wanted was to be called to be part of big shows with big names. And it wasn't until I got ready for those opportunities before they knocked that those opportunities started coming my way, and I was able to leapfrog over people with much bigger names who wanted what I was having. Do you want what I'm having? There's my enrolling question. That's why I'm so passionate about why being ready for opportunity is as important as having a timely and compelling message to share, what not to do when called unexpectedly for a media appearance, and what you can do to be rock star ready to take your place in the media spotlight, to welcome leads, client enrollment conversations, and even more ways to make your impact. That's why I'm so passionate about. And 3 compelling bullet points. And it's not just you're going to learn how to do everything. There's enough intrigue and curiosity in these bullet points that hopefully you're interested enough to want to show up live to be a beneficiary of the content. So then I would, if I were giving this talk, I would describe what each of these points was, why it matters, and how to apply it. And then I would summarize what you've learned today. And that could be, so today you've learned how important it is to get ready for opportunity before it knocks. And you've learned what not to do. Like what not to do would be, oh goodness, I have to get back to the hotel room and put my clothes on so that I can respond to this more comfortably. Can I call you back? Don't do that. What you can do to be a rock star ready. You know, you've learned what you can do to be rock star ready. And so that's wonderful learning that you're going to be able to take with you for the rest of your life. But that has created a new opportunity, because it could be that now that you're ready for opportunity, you don't yet know how to pitch yourself to a podcast. You don't yet know how to show up on camera with confidence. You don't yet have the wherewithal to make it happen. That's why I created my program that actually solves these problems. And because I'm here today and I know there are action takers and results makers in the room who are ready to step up, I have a very special offer to share with you to help you get these problems solved with my help. So what I've just done is I've taken the signature talk delivery cheat sheet and I've actually modeled what each of the 14 steps is all about, so that you can follow the yellow brick road to do the same kind of thing when you have the opportunity to take the live or virtual stage to deliver your message. The most important thing for you to do in any speaking scenario is to begin with your ideal end result in mind. What is the single most important next step your audience members can take to inquire about doing business with you? One of the biggest mistakes I notice when I listen to podcasts and interviews is when the host says, after the interview is complete, well, tell me, Mary, what can our listeners or viewers do to learn more about you? And that's when the expert says, well, there's a whole variety of things you can do. You can visit my website. You can give me a call. You can download my free gift. You can go to my sales page and buy right now. And if that's not enough, you can join my Facebook group and you can follow me on Twitter and you can do all these things. If you give the audience that many things to do, they will probably do absolutely nothing. And that is not the outcome that you want. So consider the situation you find yourself in and ask yourself what truly would be the single best next step for your audience to take that would bring them into your world so that something great could happen. And so let me summarize. What are the 14 steps that you can take to make that all-important talk pay off? Paint a picture to touch and transform your audience and create an image that gets them excited about the transformation and the learning that you're going to deliver to them. Ask an enrolling question right out of the box that gets everyone to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm interested in learning that. Introduce who you are and who you serve. And in doing so, show the credibility, show the vulnerability, and show the turning point. Because in doing that, you can connect with your audience, they can relate to your message and your story, and they might find themselves leaning in to learn even more about that, because if you can do it, maybe they can do it too. And that's really why that vulnerability is so important. That's why I'm so passionate about this subject matter. Let me get into the meat of the matter with the content key points. You explain what each is, why it matters, and how to apply it. then, which is just the tip of the iceberg here. If you give them a PhD in your subject matter, that means that they don't have a reason to go deeper with you after the fact. So finding the right balance of what to share so that you satisfy the promises that you made without giving them so much information they're completely satisfied, that's more of the art of it that takes some practice. When you deliver just enough information, you can summarize the problem, summarize the learning so far, which outlines a new problem that has emerged. And that's why you created this particular solution, problem, program, offering. And because you're here today, you want to let people take that action that you want them to take, and you can go ahead and suggest what single action you would like them to take. So what you measure gets treasured. Sometimes you speak for an audience and you get applause and you earn a standing ovation, and it feels really good to be seen, heard, and celebrated. But most people speak because they also want to be compensated in some measurable way. So how can you measure the impact of the presentations that you give to the audiences that matter most for your message? There's lots of ways. There are a few that I'll go over right now. If you happen to be in a live setting where people can enter a business card lunch drawing, you can start your talk and let people know who here wants to transform their boring bio from wallpaper to wow to attract clients now. Let me see a show of hands. Would you like to put your business card in the basket so that when the presentation is over, our host can draw a name and you can go home with your very own copy of Bye Bye Boring Bio? And oh, by the way, if you do not wish to have your name entered into my newsletter list, simply cross off your email address on your business card and I will gladly honor your request. Every time I do this, 95% or more of the people in the audience put their business card in the basket. And if there are 100 people in the room every time, you can see how one's list can grow very quickly. As a matter of fact, I checked my list this morning and it's 22,308 opt-in subscribers as of today. That's a lot of influence that I've built deliberately, one contact at a time. Please start growing your list as soon as possible so you have an audience of people that are actually paying attention to you. Speaking of which, maybe your call to action is that people would opt in to download your lead magnet. You can say, I'm so glad I had the opportunity to be here today. If you would like to download the Brilliant Bio Now gift template, here's a link where you can go and do that. And oh, by the way, I do have a link for that. It's called brilliantbionow.com. And if you go and get that, you can download the Brilliant Bio Now gift template, my gift to you, and it will help you make your bio better. But what I'm doing here is modeling how a intoxicating and juicy lead magnet that you share with people that solves a problem that they're interested in means that they will actually give you their name and email address so that you can have the opportunity to nurture those new leads to become clients and to turn those clients into success stories for everyone. Another thing you can measure potentially is how many enrollment conversations you book as a direct result of your talk, or the number and value of the sales you welcome as a result of that talk. Or if you really rocked your talk, how many spin-off engagements were you invited to give because the audience members loved it so much that they couldn't wait to recommend you for the Rotary or the Women's Networking Group or the online virtual BNI group or the Toastmasters group or whatever group it is that they represent. You can also benefit from warm and wonderful testimonials about the talk that you gave that can help position you as the speaker that gets invited back next to give another talk. I know I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to be invited to give talks for the Carolina Community College Entrepreneurship Center several times. I'm sure I wouldn't be invited back if the folks didn't like me the first or the second or the third time. So when you get a really good audience that appreciates what you share, capture those testimonials because it really makes it easier for you to measure the impact that you made. And then of course there's the quality referrals that come your way days or weeks after the fact And that's also something you can measure. Applause is nice, but these are the kinds of ways you can measure things so that you can say, yeah, that was a success. I know when I give this talk and I have this kind of a result, that it was something that was well worth doing. And be sure to measure and keep track. And if you're earlier in your journey, just know that the first talk you give may not be as effective as the 10th talk you give, because anything you do in practice, you're going to get better at with more that you do. So I'm just checking in the chat here because we've got, thank you for the cheat sheet. Having a handout reference is so great. Thank you. Love the Rotary. What is the URL for the Brilliant Bio information? www.brilliantbionow.com. Go ahead and download that. You know, there's over 20,000 people that have downloaded that over the last 10 years. It makes me so proud. And when the quality of the lead magnet that you share with your ideal client is something that solves an urgent problem and is done really well, the best part about it is people might come to the conclusion of, I can't do this by myself. I need expert support. I need to know if this is any good. I wonder if she can help me. What can you offer that solves one of the problems that your client is dealing with, that serves as breadcrumbs to bring them back to you to engage in an even bigger, bolder, more complete way? All right. Just trying to move the slides again. So what's my call to action? I lead a Facebook group called Raise Your Voice, Make Your Impact on Facebook. And it's a community of over 900 experts, thought leaders, business owners who share in common a desire to raise their voice and make their impact. And I deliver training, tools, feedback, support, and all kinds of wonderful magic for this community. It's one of my favorite ways to serve and build an audience of fans and followers for my excellent work. And if you feel called to learn more about this kind of thing, how to raise your voice and make your impact, my fondest hope is that you will go to this page and you will answer the 3 questions that you have to answer in order to be considered for a membership in this group, and that I'll get to meet you there, and that I can be a guide to show you even more about raising your voice, making your impact, whether you're on a live stage, a virtual stage, a Zoom call, whatever it is. If you can show up, speak up, be a pro at hello, deliver what you promise, and make people glad that they showed up, you'll be in great shape. Now, that is the conclusion of the formal part of my presentation, but as Terry and I were speaking earlier before we went live, she mentioned that folks were wondering about podcasts. And is there anyone on this call that's interested in being on a podcast? I would love to see if that's, let's see. Someone is saying, let me see what they say. Yes, interested in being in a podcast. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, would it be interesting to you for me to share some information about how you can do that and why it can pay off? That's an enrolling question, right? Here I am practicing what I preach. Okay, so I'm going to share a couple of suggestions, little highlights for you, because I think we have time. Podcast guesting is one of the most convenient ways to show up and speak to the right audiences that you have to use right now while you're sheltering in place. If you're set up like a pro, as I described at the top of this call, with a good microphone, sometimes podcasts are video calls too, so you want to have lighting, you want to have video, you want to have headphones, and you want to have a message. But I'll give you an example of from my own life about podcasts. I actually have 2 podcast interviews this week, one today and one on Friday. How did I get on the podcast? Number 1, I identified the top 10 podcasts in my niche audience that I would be interested to speak on. How I did that is I went on Google, and you can do this too. The top podcasts for women at midlife, the top 10 podcasts for entrepreneurs, the top 10 podcasts for financial advisors and their clients, the top 10 podcasts for you fill in your niche. You must know your niche. You're not everything to everybody, but you find the top podcasts for your niche, and then you listen to the podcasts and you ask yourself, would I be proud to share my message on that podcast, and would my expertise add value to that podcast, and could I really make an impact there? So I have another product that I offer called Life Goes On Roadmap that helps people get their acts together before life hits a bump in the road. And I happen to be listening to a podcast called Women Taking the Lead. And I heard a financial advisor talking about the importance of getting your act together, especially in the aftermath of COVID-19. And she offered some specifics which are very aligned with what it is that our product does. She mentioned on the podcast that she has her own podcast called Wine and Dime. And so while I was riding my exercise bike over the weekend, I listened to some of her podcasts to see if I would be proud to be on the show, what the show was about, what kinds of questions she answered, and whether or not it would be a win for me. And it turns out she talks about wine and money. And so she always asks someone, what kind of wine do you like and why do you like it? And tell me about the journey of your vineyard and how did you grow and how did this relate? And she takes you on this long and windy road. And then she lets you invite a call to action. So I liked the show. I absolutely thought that I could be a great guest on the show. So I reached out to her on the Be on the Podcast tab on her website, and I let her know. After listening to 3 of your podcasts where you interviewed Mary, Bob, and Sue about these important, timely topics, I just knew I needed to reach out to suggest how I could add value to the podcast too. My subject matter is X. This is what qualifies me, and here's a bright idea of a segment that could really make a difference for your viewers and listeners. I'd be delighted to hear from you and to be a participant in your next podcast. The next day, she reached out and said, I'd be thrilled to have you on the podcast, and we're doing the podcast on Friday. So what I've just modeled for you is it's important to listen to the podcast that you think would be right for you and find out why you would be the right guest to be on the podcast, and then to formulate a simple pitch letter that demonstrates that you've been paying attention so that they will take you seriously. And then when it's coming time to be on the podcast, be ready to deliver your sound bites, your powerful messaging, and your single call to action so that all those embedded listeners who have already subscribed have an easy path to find your internet or bricks and mortar front door. So what can happen when you do a podcast? You can get tons of opt-ins to your opt-in gift. You can get telephone calls for people that want to do business with you. Someone's asking again, what is a pitch letter? A pitch letter is a simple email that you craft that says something like, I'm a regular listener of the Wine and Dime podcast and love it so much that I've given it a 5-star rating on iTunes. The reason I'm writing to you today is I have a bright idea for a segment that I think could add value for your listeners and bring some new content into the conversation. My bright idea is to talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic is the ideal time for families across the nation to get their acts together before something random or crazy prevents them from being able to do so. If we were to have a conversation on the show, I would share the 5 most important financial empowerment tips that every family should take and do right now, and why they should. And I have plenty of stories to bring this content alive in an engaging way while drinking wine and talking about money. I look forward to hearing from you soon. You just write a letter and say what you have to offer and why. I hope that answers your question, Lena. Nancy says, would you please explain again why headphones are needed for some virtual meetings? Audio quality is important. If you are broadcasting from a room with cathedral ceilings, sometimes there can be an echo that can be heard by the audience that is a negative takeaway from your message. I am not using headphones right now because I'm in a room with low ceilings and there's not a lot of excess distraction auditorially to get in the way of the message. Hopefully you're able to hear me loud and clear. But there are some situations where that will not be the case, and headphones diffuse the distracting noise and allow the message to deliver to the audience in a clean and well understood manner. If you're not sure about what headphones to use, you can use Google. It's the most robust search engine in the world, and find out what are the best headphones to use for online meetings and podcasts. You can go to YouTube and search similarly. It's also a great search engine, and you'll get wonderful choices delivered right to your desktop to help you reason through whether or not you need headphones. All right. What other questions do you have for me? Looking at the time here, I have time to take more questions. We talked about podcasts and why you should do them. I guess I'll talk a little bit about YouTube. YouTube is a search engine. And if you do a video, I'm using myself an example, how to write a professional bio that wows, you use keywords and search terms, and you deliver that content in a YouTube video, not only can you reach the people that you already have in your own community through social media, your newsletter, or other avenues that you have control over, but there's a whole universe of people that are going to YouTube for looking for content that just might be that kind of content. And that opens up your audience to a whole universe of people that could possibly do business with you and buy. So consider YouTube as an avenue. If showing up on camera is comfortable for you and you have excellent how-to information to share that helps people do what it is that you do, give that some consideration. It might be a good avenue for you. So Angie's asking a question. How do you find the link for changing your Zoom background? Can you do it with the free Zoom account? I don't know if you can do it for the free Zoom account, but you can do it for your paid account. And I'm reluctant to do it right now, but if you actually type that question into Google, you'll get an answer. There's a little settings button on the left-hand side, just to the right of your microphone. And there's a little drop-down menu, and it says customize your background. And you can choose to either upload your own image or use one of the images already provided. There is one caveat in that if you have a much older computer, some of the older computers are not compatible with the new imaging that they're supplying. So in that case, your easiest, most affordable bet is to make sure that what's behind you is a professional background that you feel proud to show to people, or to buy a green screen and show something else that is reflective of your brand and reputation. Catherine is asking, yes, you can install a virtual background on free Zoom account. Great, lots of versatility. Zoom is offering free webinars and you can search under support most topics. Barnsley Brown asks, who usually has the rights to your guest podcast? Can you turn it into an info product? Okay. The podcast host usually hosts your interview on their iTunes account or wherever the interviews are hosted, and the host is going to be really happy for you to repurpose that interview across all of your social media platforms so that it can get more views or more listens and more reviews and all those wonderful outcomes that your podcast host is looking for. Can you turn it into an information product? Yes, you can. It might be the kind of information product that you might turn it into a free lead magnet as opposed to a product that you sell because it's already out there. I would probably turn it into a lead magnet. We have another question here. When you first start doing speaking engagements or teaching or workshops, do you do them for free, or is there a fair market rate for beginners? How does this rate change as you grow in experience? And can you speak a little about getting paid for speaking and teaching at events and workshops? Well, those are some really good questions. Thank you, Lauren. When you first start speaking and teaching, I'll just share my own experience. 10 years ago, when I wrote the book Bye Bye Boring Bio, I started doing Bye Bye Boring Bio free workshops at the local coffee house. And it turned out that people really wanted to come because I had 30 or 40 or 50, sometimes 100 people showing up, and I would walk them through how to transform their boring bio from wallpaper to wow to attract clients now. I did them for free. If anything, the compensation I was getting was the testimonials that people were offering about how valuable these workshops were and how helpful they were in empowering them to get their bios created in a world-class way. I got paid because I had my workbooks in the back of the room, and my single call to action was, if you would like to purchase the Bye Bye Boring Bio workbook and all the beautiful templates that are inside so that you can create bios for every situation and show up like a pro at hello, I brought some with me today, and today only, because you're here today, I'm offering a very special price of X. I'd be honored to welcome your business. So I was speaking quote unquote for free, and that nobody was paying me to show up, but I found a way to monetize, two ways to monetize. One is in the early going, getting testimonials that would make it easier for other people to be excited to come. And number two, because I had a physical product to share, there was something that people could buy. So as a beginner, you can lead virtual workshops or webinars or Zoom calls to teach something. And when you make your call to action, you can invite them to buy your book, enroll in your group training program, give you a call to have a discovery session so they can decide if your premium program is exactly what it is that they want. And if they love what they got in the workshop and they got value from the workshop and felt enough know, like, trust that you were the person that they wanted to learn from, when you invest a half an hour, 45 minutes talking with that person on the phone, and you have an invitation to extend that's $5, $10, or more $1,000, well, you just got paid. That's a pretty good outcome. I've done a lot of that in my time. That was the first question. How does this rate change as you grow in experience? That's completely up to you and how your mindset will rise up to meet your value. You might decide to sell workshop tickets or VIP days for thousands of dollars. You can do whatever you like if you can deliver the goods and stand in and on your value. And then in terms of getting paid for speaking and teaching at events and workshops, I have a couple of cute little humble stories, and I'm just checking here, but for years and years, I spoke for free for the opportunity to make an offer on stage that I could monetize so that it would make it worth my time to have created that talk in the first place. And if I had a big enough offer to extend, I got paid a whole lot more from sales in the back of the room than most meeting planners would pay in the front of the room. But one time I got an email from a meeting planner and said they were doing some event at a local community college in Bellingham, and they'd heard that I was a pretty good speaker, and would I be interested in leading a breakout session? And I wrote back to the person and said, I'm so honored to be referred. What a treat that is. Love the theme of your conference. Before we talk about leading the breakout session, I'd love for you to take a look at my speaker demo reel and my speaker sheet so you know what it is I love to talk about and the way that I talk about it. If you love what you see, let's have another conversation. And then she actually called me and said, I've seen enough. We don't want you to lead a breakout session. We want you to be our paid keynote speaker. What are your requirements? And then there was this long pause because I'd never really been asked that question before. And so when someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, you say something like, well, get curious. Tell me more about your event. And she says, well, the event is in Bellingham. The keynote is 8 o'clock in the morning. We need you to speak for an hour and we want you to talk about this. And I winked and I laughed and I said, well, you know, Mary, Bellingham is a couple hours away from my home office. We're talking about a half-day rate here. And then she says, well, what's your half-day rate? Long pause. Truthfully, I didn't know what my half-day rate was, but I'd read enough of those books about overcoming under-earning that I pulled a figure from air that felt ambitious to me. And I just said, well, Mary, my half-day rate is X. And it was this 4-figure amount that felt a little bit uncomfortable to me. And then there was this long pause right then and there. And then she said, you know what? Completely fair. We're all in. It's a yes. And here's something more. We want to bring you in the night before so you're well rested at a lovely hotel and you can bring your husband and we'll treat you to dinner. How does that sound? And so that conversation turned into 4 figures. And when I got in front of that audience, there were lots of people there that wanted to buy my book, and I got to sell books there, made money that way too. So if you want to get known and get paid for speaking, show up like a pro at Hello, have an idea of what you think would be a fair fee that would make it worth it for you to do it. And don't be afraid of asking for just a little bit more because you just might get it. There's a whole lot more I could say about that, but if you're a beginner, that's probably a good place to start. Let's see. What things can you ask for in exchange for giving a freebie, such as a testimonial? More creative ideas, please. What kinds of things can you ask for in exchange for giving a freebie? Well, I'm stopping cold because I'm not exactly sure. I want to know a little bit more about your business so I can be more specific. So tell me more. Someone says, can you give us an example of your speaker sheet, please? Yes, I can. And if you go to my website, which is www.getknowngetpaid.com, I'm sure, let me see. I want to try something. Now I don't want to mess up the technology. Go to getknowngetpaid.com. That's my website. And there is a tab called Speaking. And if you click on the Speaking tab, not only will you see that there's a demo reel of me speaking and some videos there, but there's actually a tab that says Speaker Sheet. And you can see my speaker sheet right there on my website. And I highly recommend that speakers, virtual or live speakers, have speaker sheets, because if when we get back to more of a normal and people are meeting by committee, there could be people in a committee sitting around a table looking at speaker sheets to decide who they're going to choose. And if yours is branded and beautiful and the message is on the money, you're going to stand apart from people that have a simple Word document that their teenage kid pulled together on a lark. Show up like a pro in everything that you do, and you will be treated like a pro who gets paid well to do what it is that you do. Is the speaker sheet and cheat sheet the same? No. The speaker sheet is what you would show to a decision maker who was evaluating whether or not you were the expert they wanted to bring to their stage. And the cheat sheet is what I walked you through today, the signature talk cheat sheet, which shows you the 14 steps you want to take to craft a talk that rocks and turns into cash. I hope that that makes that clear. Lauren says, thank you so much to my answer to my question. I loved hearing your personal experience in growing as a speaker and presenter. If you love that one, I want to finish with a really good one that, let me just ask people on the call. Are you someone who is earlier in your journey as a speaker? Yes or no? Please type in the chat. Halfway, yes, yes, yes. A lot of people are earlier in their journey. So I want to share a fun little story, which is a perfect way to close, I think, and also very inspiring. When I am a bookish, introverted person who would much prefer to write than to speak. And when I first started my business in 2001, I thought I could just write books. I could write articles. I could do all that kind of thing because that's what my natural inclination was, to use words on paper to make things magical. But I had a business coach who said that was a shame, because if all I used was words on paper, I'm leaving out 2/3 of the people who could benefit from my message if I could just find the courage to step up and lead. He said, if you want to build a successful business with speaking off the table, you will have one arm of your success tied behind your back. If that's the way you want to do it, I'll help you the best that I can, but it would be so much better if you could learn how to speak with impact and passion and to much larger groups, because you'll have much more efficient success. Well, I wasn't happy with those odds, so he said I had to start getting speaking engagements. So the local women's business organization invited me to speak about how to get publicity for your growing business, and that was something I knew a lot about. So I created this talk, and I went way over the mark in terms of delivering content, and I gave way too many calls to action. I totally was like drinking from a hot fire hose speaker, and you've been in situations where if you've been in front of a speaker like that, you were probably holding your breath and wondering when it was going to be over. It wasn't a good talk, not by a long shot. And when the evaluations came back, someone said, I didn't pay $45 for lunch and $10 for parking to watch a speaker pray, lean on PowerPoint like a crutch, hold on to the podium for dear life, and pray for the presentation to be over. Can you imagine how humiliated I felt? But fall down 7, get up 8. If that's the kind of speaker I was then, what could I do differently to improve my game? So I invested in speaker training. I practiced my speaker training. I took every opportunity to get better. I joined Toastmasters to learn to be a better speaker and a better leader. And my greatest turnaround story of all is that same organization several years later reached out to me and said, we would be so honored if you would come and speak to our group. And I spoke to the group authentically, with passion, with heart and spirit. And I got the best ratings of any speaker they had had that year. And I consider that a huge personal victory, because from the depths and the bottom of humiliation of being a horrible speaker, I took the actions to become better. And they actually invited me back, and I had my redemption. So how do you want to use speaking to grow your business? Virtual speaking is a great way to do it. We're connecting, we're having conversations, we're feeling good about it. And someone says they're a math tutor. Do I have any suggestions? Not sure how to answer that question. Can you teach people about, tell me more. And Tawana's saying, that's amazing. You're referring to the story I told, my redemption story. I love telling that story. And I guess one of the things I'm doing in this presentation here is showing that when you tell a story and have the courage to show your vulnerable moments, it gives the people that are listening courage that they can do that too. You know, if we were all polished and perfect, where would the fun be in that? But when you find someone who was an introverted, words on paper, non-spotlight seeker like myself, who's found ways to speak up virtually on live stages and Zoom calls and podcasts and television programs and all of these other kinds of things, it lets you know that if you have the courage and the desire, you can do that too. You can do that too, and you have an expertise that you can bring to the party that can make a difference for the people you're here to help. And I guess I would ask, how badly do you want it? How much do you need it? Can you turn it into a mission worth fighting for? And then just wave your flag and go out there and do it, because your people need your message and my people need my message. And we can all turn those messages into magnificent transformations for people who get a chance to hear what we have to say. And then those people lean in and want to do business with you. And then the triple win is in play. You get what you want, the service provider gets what they want, and the world is made better because everybody got what they came for. So I hope that you've loved this talk as much as I've enjoyed giving it. Share a compliment, share a content, share anything you want to say. Gonna go, but you see on the screen this Facebook group? Who here is gonna join my Facebook group? Are you gonna join my Facebook group? There's a whole lot of people here, and I wanna know if I'll be seeing you there. So, Terry, thank you so much for having me here. I hope I delivered on the promise and delivered the value that you were expecting. Anything more that we should talk about before we sign off for now?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nancy, for joining us. I think you can tell by all the questions that are coming through that it's definitely a hot topic, being able to speak virtually. And just like your story, you mentioned, everyone's bad at everything in the beginning, and practice makes perfect. So I guess, one of my biggest takeaways from this is don't be afraid to be terrible at it in the beginning. That's how you get better. But
Amen
yeah,
to that.
I can see so many opportunities for everyone on the call today to really, expand their audience and to grow their businesses. And just like, you had the lady on the chat that asked about being a math tutor. I mean, I could even see her giving presentations to parents. I mean, as a parent myself who had a child that struggled with math, to be able to hear inspirational stories about there's a path to be able to take your child from, flunking math to acing math. And so I think everybody here has an opportunity, regardless of what the business is, to take advantage, of being able to speak online.
I want to add one more thing that you just signaled bright idea. Yeah. How many parents are sheltering in place and having to make a living and also teach their kids so that they can stay on time with their important learning to advance in their education?
Absolutely.
If you had a YouTube channel as a math tutor, you could do a series of lessons: how to master fractions, how to master the quadratic equation, how to do geometry like a pro, how to answer a word problem and get the answer right every time. If you created a series of those kinds of YouTube videos, parents could turn to your YouTube channel and you would be like the answer to a prayer, because I have heard so many parents say, oh, the new math, my eyes are glazing over. I don't understand it at all. Where can I go to get my kid to understand the math? If you can be the guy that helps the kids understand the math while they're sheltering in place, oh my goodness. And one more, that this is getting a little advanced, but if your YouTube channel gets to be popular, if you have 1,000 or more viewers on your YouTube channel and 4,000 hours of viewing to your channel becomes one that is eligible for monetization by Facebook, and you can make money the more people watch and consume your content. If you want to learn more about how to make your YouTube channel rock, there's an expert named Sunny Lenarduzzi. And you can binge watch her videos about how to start your YouTube channel, how to grow your YouTube channel, how to make sure your YouTube channel gets found. I'm a huge fan of her work, and her name is Sunny Lenarduzzi. That math tutor that showed up for this call, this could be the answer to his prayer.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So many opportunities right now to take advantage of. You just have to, jump in and get started with them. So Nancy, thank you again so much for joining us, and we're glad to have you back. We hope to have you again soon.
I would if you're listening to this call, here I'm practicing what I preach. If you have listened to this call and loved it, tell Terry Brown why and what else you want to learn from me, so she invites me back.
Absolutely.
How about that?
That definitely works. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Nancy, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you so much.
Have a great afternoon.